An open field in Florida with no bushes to hide behind, no way out. A hail of bullets sweeps across, and the wild boars flee. But this time, they're not easy targets. When pushed to the edge, will wild boars run or go mad and charge into a deadly fight? And if a 300-pound one turns back to attack, will the shooter be fast enough to pull the trigger? Or is he the one being hunted? The wild boars stormed across the field like a surge of fury. They tore through rows of soil, snapped corn stalks, and trampled patches of crops nearing harvest. Nothing could stop them. Iron fences were bent, water tanks overturned, entire irrigation systems shattered. They didn't destroy to survive. They destroyed out of brutal instinct. Each step they took shredded more land, crushed more property into the mud. This was no longer mere damage. This was a declaration of war. The boars hid silently in the field, as if nothing were there. But the harvester was merciless. Wherever it went, their hiding places disappeared. Panic set in. With no place to hide, the boars rushed towards the bushes at the edge of the field, thinking that was where they could escape. But the gunman was waiting. No rush, no confusion. Just a glance, a quick shot following their path. The shot tore through the air. One fell to the ground without a sound. The hunt began. The vineyard in front was left with only dry stumps and patches of scattered grass. As soon as I stepped forward, the hunting dogs barked fiercely. Without thinking, I rushed toward the sound. And just as I had sensed, the wild boar suddenly leapt out. There was no time to hesitate. I raised my gun and pulled the trigger. Boom! One shot was enough. It collapsed, motionless. A clean in, no chance for a second time. Suddenly, a wild boar burst out of the field, panicked by the barking. The moment I caught sight of it, I raised my gun, aimed directly, and pulled the trigger repeatedly. But this one was tough. It weaved through and escaped out of sight. I didn't hesitate. I ran around its hidden side. Just as I arrived, I saw it trying to turn back and I raised my gun without a second thought. It collapsed right at the edge of the field, not getting a chance to turn back. We moved to the next location, an endless green field. We sped up on our motorbikes. Suddenly, I spotted a dark shadow in the distance, a wild boar quietly creeping in to cause destruction. Without saying a word, my teammate immediately swerved to charge forward. As soon as the engine roared, it panicked and fled. The chase began. I aimed and pulled the trigger. First shot, missed. Second shot, still missed. Third shot wasn't any better, but we didn't stop. When we got close, just a few meters away, I raised my gun one more time. This time, no mistakes. One shot cleaned it. The beast collapsed right on its escape path. We returned to the cornfield, this time with our familiar allies, the hunting dogs. They spread out in all directions, sniffing every trace. In less than 5 minutes, loud barking erupted at the edge of the field. I immediately rushed over, gripping my gun tightly. As I approached the edge, I stopped and aimed toward the source of the noise. The sky was gradually getting dark, but I still hadn't stopped. Alone, I followed along the edge of the field, looking to see if any wild boar were left. Suddenly, I spotted the direction a boar was running. Without hesitation, I immediately picked up speed and moved to cut it off. It was about to dash into the neighboring field, but at that very moment, I had already raised my gun. One shot, precise. The boar collapsed on the spot, without making a sound. Hunting is not just a passion. It helps protect crops, livestock, and the very survival of others. Each boar taken down is one less threat. Do you think wild boar hunting is just a dangerous thrill deep in the forest? Think again. In Spain, it's actually a profession. The price for each kilogram of fresh wild boar meat can go up to 12 to 20 euros, depending on quality and season. So for hunters like us, this is more than just a passion or a way to protect crops. It's a livelihood. Today, our destination is a licensed hunting estate in Candeleta, a town in the province of Avila. We had our first encounter with the beast right on the way there. The wild boar didn't hesitate to charge straight at us. Realizing the danger, I pulled the trigger immediately. Just one shot, and the animal dropped dead instantly. After reaching the mountain, we released the hunting dogs, who quickly spread out and began tracking the prey. There it is. A fairly large wild boar dashed out in panic. Unfortunately for it, every step was already in our sights. Diego, one of our hunters, raised his rifle and fired decisively. The boar was hit, staggered, and collapsed moments later. While some members were stationed downhill, my partner and I climbed higher to assist Dante in flanking the boar. Thankfully, the dog pack had already done their job. All that remained was for us to aim carefully and pull the trigger. From the last spot, I moved a few hundred meters further. Alone in this desolate terrain, I couldn't help but stay on high alert, especially as the sound of barking dogs grew louder. My heart pounded, hands gripping the rifle tightly as Within 10 seconds, I fired several rounds in quick succession. What a rush. I quickly radioed the team to share the good news. Tension was high at Diego's post too. He was waiting for the boar to reveal itself under the dog's relentless pursuit. Oh my God, that was close. It was a heart-pounding moment. Fortunately, Diego took it down just in time. If you're inexperienced or without a team, you should never go hunting alone. Out here, just 1 second too late could cost you your life. Following a trail that climbed a few hundred more steps, the dogs barked furiously again. Nothing else it could be. Only wild boars roam this rugged forest terrain. I raised my rifle carefully, ears perked, eyes scanning every bush. Movement. A boar burst out, and I fired several quick shots. Gun smoke filled the air, but more importantly, the boar was down. This might just be the luckiest hunt I've ever had. The signal to regroup was already sounded. But I couldn't leave just yet. It seemed the dogs had found one last unfortunate boar. There, after all the searching, I took it down in just a few seconds. Even though hunting is a source of income for us, We always strictly follow wildlife and environmental protection laws. We only hunt legal species during the correct seasons and with.
Gel.
Recently, locals in the area had begun to notice the familiar signs of wild boar appearing more frequently along the slopes behind the village. We decided to head up the mountain early, hoping to get a head start before the boars moved further down the slopes. The slopes were steep and slippery, making for difficult travel. But if we could follow their usual paths, our chances of encountering them would be much higher. We parked by a narrow trail at the base of the mountain. Rifles had just been slung over our shoulders, and the group was ready to hike along the steep slope to reach our ambush point. No one expected things to kick off this early. Hank gripped his rifle tightly, cautiously approaching a small mound near the roadside. From its hiding spot, a wild boar suddenly burst out. Without hesitation, a sharp, decisive gunshot rang out. Just seconds later, the first target had collapsed. The hunt hadn't even officially begun, but the boars had already offered themselves up to the barrel. It took the team about 30 minutes to reach the ambush site we had scouted earlier. The top of the slope was clear, but below, dense brush covered the foothills, and that was our target area, the area I couldn't take my eyes off. A wild boar dodged Eric's shot and darted into the bushes. A few seconds later, it appeared on the other side, exactly as predicted. I held my breath, my finger tightening on the trigger. A deafening explosion tore through the air. The target had no chance of escape. Eric shifted his line of sight and quickly spotted a herd of wild boars moving up the slope. Without hesitation, he raised his rifle, waited for the perfect moment as one of the boars entered a clearing and fired. A single shot hit. One boar rolled down the hill, while the rest immediately bolted in panic. Still, we had secured the prize we came for. At a higher ambush point, Hank also spotted a boar just as it emerged from a dense thicket. He didn't hesitate for even a second. A direct shot from the front brought the wild boar down instantly, and it tumbled into the green brush nearby. In mountainous slope areas like this, wild boars often choose paths covered with thick vegetation to move and forage. So, if you catch the wind direction and set up at the right spot, the chances of a successful ambush are quite high. only were there hunters positioned above, there was also someone stationed down in the valley. Travis received a report from the scout team. A wild boar had been wounded and was trying to hide in the bushes. Not giving a chance to escape, Travis immediately moved in on the target. The boar no longer had the strength to fight back, so all Travis had to do was fire a decisive shot to finish it off completely. During our hunts along the mountainside, we usually retreat early from the peak and switch to ambushing in nearby areas. I was assigned to hold position at the foot of the mountain, a narrow trail between the low valley and the slope, which also happens to be a common path for wildlife movement. Sure enough, not long after, rustling came from the nearby brush and a dark figure appeared. I reacted quickly, adjusted my aim, pulled the trigger. A single, clean, and precise shot. The boar collapsed by the roadside, struggled briefly, then lay still.
¿Qué hablo, Mimi? Traía a jugar menos, mira uno que dio piña.
Oh my God, what have these wild boars done? The scene in front of us is a complete disaster. My teammates and I couldn't help but feel both sorrow and anger at the destruction they caused. We knew that if we didn't act quickly, the damage would only get worse. That's why our entire hunting team set out with one mission: to track down these destroyers, not just to protect the crops, but to restore peace for ourselves and our community. Early in the morning, we made our way to the forest right next to our village. Having hunted together for years, we didn't need to say a word. Everyone instinctively moved into position. I began searching for signs of the wild boars. Suddenly, a teammate shouted from a distance. The target was closing in. And sure enough, thanks to our preparation, I aimed and fired in a split second. The shot hit home. The boar slid across the ground and collapsed shortly after. before we could even savor the win, I sensed something strange. Amidst the lush green trees, a dark blur passed. My hunting instincts kicked in immediately. I raised my gun, eyes locked in, ready to fire at any moment. Bang! The startled boar tried to dodge, but it was too late. The bullet hit clean. It stumbled, thrashed around briefly, and then went still. As soon as I radioed in the sighting, Orson swiftly moved into an intercept position. And just like that, the moment the boar appeared, he didn't hesitate. One clean shot from instinct alone, a quick and decisive end. The boar never had a chance to escape. Knowing that wild boars often move in herds, we were sure more were hiding nearby, so we began sweeping the area carefully. Just as we predicted, the herd emerged under pressure. I kept my cool, tightened my grip on the gun, eyes fixed on the target. Then bang. A precise, clean shot dropped one of them right where it stood. After a brief 10-minute break, we pressed deeper into the forest. The dense undergrowth created a natural barrier, masking any movement inside. But nothing escapes our four-legged warriors. Our dogs quickly picked up a fresh trail. We moved into position without delay, held steady, and aimed with care. The gunfire cracked through the forest. Just like that, another boar dropped not far from us. The echo of the gunfire shook the area, scattering the herd in all directions. Some nearby boars dashed off in panic. But we weren't about to let them get away that easily. I quickly readjusted, locked in on a runner, and squeezed the trigger. Another wild boar dropped instantly. In just a few minutes, we added another trophy to the day's success. Just as we were about to call it a day, our dogs suddenly went wild with barking. From deep in the woods, a massive black figure came charging out at lightning speed. It was him. Not giving a chance to fight back, I opened fire immediately. Several shots rang out, target down. In Texas, my uncle's farm was torn apart overnight by a horde of wild boars. Despite being an experienced hunter, this time the sheer number and boldness of the pigs overwhelmed him. With no other choice, he called in our hunting crew for backup. After finalizing the plan, we began our hunt right on my uncle's property. To lure the boars in, we set up automatic feeders. Attracted by the scent of food, the pigs arrived quickly, eagerly foraging every last bit. With their guard down, Marist steadily took her position, locked on her target, and 1, 2, 3, fire! A single clean shot. She dropped the boar with remarkable precision and confidence. At the same time, my buddy Inda and I spotted a few other boars lurking nearby. I closed in, picked my target, and squeezed the trigger. The lead pellet from my air rifle struck the boar's body. Startled, it let out a sharp cry before collapsing. It wasn't a huge win, but it felt damn good and got me fired up. With strength in numbers, we split up across the area to maximize our chances. Each of us focused hard, aiming with care and executing fast, decisive shots. The mission: drop as many as possible before nightfall. The next afternoon, we resumed the hunt on the farm grounds. Right as we arrived, we encountered a sizable group of full-grown boars. They stood frozen, watching us warily. I quickly brought one into my scope and fired. A single shot, and one of them hit the dirt instantly. We moved toward another feeder we'd pre-positioned. The boars hadn't noticed us yet, still caught in the invisible trap of their appetite. From a tall stand, I lined up my rifle and waited for the perfect shot. One squeeze of the trigger and the sharp crack of the rifle echoed. The boar dropped in a flash. We kept spreading feed and waited as the sun dipped lower. True to their nature, the greedy pigs couldn't resist the scent. No matter where they were. I crept closer, hiding behind a bush, watching them from a distance. Once my target was squarely in range, I pulled the trigger. Just one well-placed shot, and the boar dropped on the spot. As night fell, we returned to our enclosed hunting blinds for the final round. I picked a good position, steadied my aim, and when the moment was right, fired. Perfect execution. The shadowy figure dropped back and lay completely still. After years of trekking through the wilderness and facing countless intense hunts, I thought I was well acquainted with the dangers of the wild. But with the wild boar population rising at an alarming rate, we couldn't help but feel concerned. These animals have become more aggressive, frequently destroying crops and threatening the livelihoods of local residents. Responding to a call from local authorities, we once again set off, driven by a shared mission to restore peace to this land. By late afternoon, we arrived at a swampy area bordering a field, a notorious haven for crop-raiding wild boars. We had already scattered bait to lure them in. Tempted by the irresistible scent, the boars began to emerge, growing in number. Every movement they made fell directly into our line of sight. From a high lookout post, my teammate carefully adjusted his rifle, locked on his target, and pulled the trigger. The surprise shot landed perfectly. The boar collapsed instantly. In a nearby hunting blind, Henry and I were set up with our gear, patiently waiting. After nearly 20 minutes, shadows began to stir. More boars had arrived. We instantly locked eyes onto them through our scopes, tracking every subtle move. When the boars let their guard down, a burst of gunfire ripped through the still evening air. One boar dropped immediately, a flawless shot after such intense anticipation. The rush of success was overwhelming. Pride and joy lit up our faces. It was nearly dark when we prepared to head home, but then we spotted another group of wild boars foraging quietly in an open area. We moved quickly into position, rifles raised, eyes focused. I picked my target and gave a short call to grab its attention. The moment it paused, I fired. The bullet tore through the air and struck it cleanly. Despite a panicked attempt to flee, it only managed a few unsteady steps before collapsing. We returned to the hunting ground as planned. Suddenly, a shadow crept in from the distance, weaving through the grass ahead. I quickly raised my rifle, steadied my hands, and took aim. Even from that far away, my shot was precise, landing a direct hit that dropped the boar instantly. Fresh from our recent success, we headed toward a nearby clearing in search of another opportunity. And there they were. The boars were right in front of us. Seizing the moment, my buddy moved forward carefully, every step measured to avoid making a sound. Then, boom, a single thunderous shot echoed, signaling another triumphant moment in our hunting journey. The deep tracks pressed into the muddy ground were unmistakable. Wild boars had definitely been here. They had clearly been foraging nearby and hadn't gone far. And just as we expected, one appeared before us, peeking out from behind a tree, oblivious to the danger. I took shooting stance, calmly pulled the trigger, and in an instant, it went down, likely never realizing what hit it. We use a variety of strategies to hunt wild boars, including waiting silently from high up in the trees. The bait we placed below worked like a charm, drawing one boar in for a feast. While I was still distracted, Kane, perched above, took a bold, precise shot. The boar screamed in pain, staggered a few steps, then crumpled to the ground. And just like that, our adventure comes to an end. The harvest season is drawing near. People around here are all worried because around this time every year, wild boars start coming down from the forest and wreak havoc on the fields in just a few nights. So we decided to organize a hunt. Some prepared their guns, others brought along their packs of hunting dogs. Everyone understood clearly. If we didn't act soon, once the boars came down, all we could do was stand by and watch the crops get destroyed. We gathered at the edge of the forest. As soon as they were released, the pack of hunting dogs bolted off. Eagerly tracking the scent. It seemed they were even more impatient. The moment we heard barking, we knew the prey had been cornered. Riley was assigned to hold a position at the top of a small slope, the very spot where an entire herd of wild boars had been spotted. The dogs began driving the prey uphill from the base of the slope. As the barking grew louder, a deafening shot rang out, striking the boar. It fell but still thrashed around, refusing to give up. That stubbornness only earned it 2 more bullets, after which it finally lay still on the hillside. The team began to spread out to widen the search area. I moved forward slowly, maintaining intense focus. Suddenly, a wild boar appeared right in front of me, only about 3 meters away. It hadn't even managed to react before it dropped from a precise shot. Hopefully, the next encounters will go just as smoothly.
Bu sefer tamam.
The sound of barking echoed from deep within the forest. Without hesitation, I raised my gun and pulled the trigger decisively. The gunshot momentarily silenced the barking dogs, and the boar collapsed right there in its hiding place. After several hours of hunting, the pack of dogs continued to work tirelessly and eagerly. Thanks to their efforts, we were able to quickly detect another target and take it down with clean, efficient shots. Each successful hit brought a sense of relief, because every boar taken down meant one less threat to the approaching harvest season. When the forest finally grew quiet again, we had to use GPS to locate the pack of dogs. There, they were gathered in one spot on the far side of the slope. Just as we arrived, a dark figure suddenly appeared in my sights. Instantly, a sharp gunshot rang out. The boar dropped on the spot. The golden moment lasts only seconds. That's why, once you sense signs of prey nearby, Never take your finger off the trigger. As I continued sweeping the surrounding area, I stumbled upon a small stream, an ideal feeding spot for wild boars. Let's see if we find anything here, I muttered to myself, keeping a firm grip on my rifle. And sure enough, just a few minutes later, barking erupted like a blaring alarm. A pitch-black boar came charging. I was ready. Without hesitation, I raised my gun and pulled the trigger. The shot echoed through the forest walls, bringing a dramatic and intense showdown to an end. The hunt was over, and everyone was exhausted. But at least, the upcoming harvest will face one less threat. This was the third day of our week-long hunt. We've been tracking the boars from the western hills, across 2 creeks, and spent last night sleeping under a big oak tree. One old boar showed up on our trail cam last night, about 260 pounds, tusks curved like fish hooks. And this morning, the wind was blowing just right. The hunt was back on. We headed straight to the area where we'd found heavy boar tracks the day before. From my position up in the blind, I raised my rifle, looked through the scope, and there it was. The bullet hit clean, dropping the boar instantly. Hank whistled a sharp single note. I knew exactly what it was. More of them were nearby. A small wild boar, foraging early. I didn't hesitate. My finger tightened on the trigger. Out on the trail, Hank had already figured out the boar's direction. I moved to cut them off at the trail's edge, while Hank and Dawson flanked them from both sides, a classic pincer move. Then gunfire rang out. I dropped my first target. With solid formation and perfect coordination, we had full control of the hunt. More boars went down, one after another. Mid-morning now, we pushed deeper into the woods, looking for the bigger ones. Dawson suddenly froze ahead of us. We all heard it, clear rustling in the dry leaves. Boar. No time to waste. Dawson raised his rifle and dropped it with a single shot. Before we could even catch our breath, more rustling, this time to our right. A group of wild boars charged out of the trees. It was a wild, incredible sight. Gunshots cracked through the forest. The sound of him racking his bolt echoed nonstop. These were hands down the most intense and thrilling moments of the day. During a quick break, we regrouped and adjusted our ambush strategy, then moved southeast through the forest. Sure enough, another group emerged. My instincts fired up. I chambered around and pulled the trigger without mercy. Amid the gunfire, another boar went down. It was near day's end. I was exhausted, just planned to stick around a bit longer in case a straggler wandered by. But out of nowhere, another whole herd stormed in. Hank laughed. Looks like no one told the boars hunting season started. The moment I spotted it, my fatigue disappeared. I raised my rifle, took aim, and dropped one instantly. As day 3 wrapped up, we were all worn out, sweaty, dirty, caked in dust, but our eyes still sparkled. It had been a tough day, full of surprises, and well worth it. On the hike back to camp, the woods rang with laughter, cigarette smoke, and stories of clean shots. Tomorrow, we hunt again, because out there, the boars aren't done yet. You may have seen hunting videos before, but combining hunting with high-speed motorbike chases brings an entirely new level of adrenaline. This isn't just about speed or skill. It's our way of tackling the invasive menace that is the wild boar, which continues to wreak havoc on our farmlands and the lives of local people. Let the high-octane pursuit begin. After hours of tracking our target using the sharp ears of our hunting dogs, I finally pinpointed it, a massive wild boar hiding deep within a dense cornfield. My instincts told me it would bolt across a nearby dirt road, so I jumped on the motorbike and sped toward the spot. Right on cue, the beast burst out. Without hesitation, I pulled the trigger. The bullet sliced through the air, piercing its thick hide. The boar stumbled, staggered, then collapsed into the earth. Another hunt ended. Meanwhile, Garrick's bike was tearing across the open field in search of another target. There it was, from a distance. He spotted a lone boar desperately fleeing for its life. He hit the brakes, aimed, and fired off several rounds. But the first volley missed, it was just too far. Undeterred, Garrick circled around, cutting off its escape path. This time, with the barrel aimed squarely at its chest, the wild boar had no aim. I, too, was on the move, heading toward Garrick's position through the maze of cornfields. Suddenly, I saw it, a breathtaking chase between a boar and a pack of hunting dogs unfolding right before my eyes. I fired a few shots from a distance, but the boar kept charging. I accelerated, intercepting it just in time. The beast didn't hesitate. It lunged straight at me. Luckily, I managed to get off with a final, decisive shot before it could strike. The threat was neutralized in good time. With multiple takedowns under our belts, both Garrick and I were fired up. Fueled by adrenaline, we raced across the endless fields, chasing any sign of movement. About 10 minutes later, luck returned. Another wild boar suddenly appeared. No time to waste, I raised my gun and fired in a split second. The quick draw worked, and the beast crumpled instantly to the ground. Using motorbikes gave us unmatched mobility, allowing us to adapt quickly and cover a wide variety of terrain. The moment we got word of another boar fleeing, we raced ahead to intercept it on a dirt path cutting through the fields. There it was. As it charged out from the brush, I squeezed off a flurry of shots. Caught off guard, The boar had no chance to react and dropped on the spot. On our way back to regroup with the rest of the team, we suddenly caught sight of a few wild boars attempting to escape. We barely had time to inspect the results when more boars charged our way. Acting on instinct, I surged forward and pulled the trigger. A perfect hit. The boar collapsed before it could react. We went on foot to chase down another boar that had just escaped. Relying on experience, I quickly spotted its location, leveled my gun, and fired several precise shots. The gunfire echoed through the trees, blending with the baying of the hounds, signaling a satisfying conclusion. And there it was. Only a lifeless black shape remained, lying still among the dry leaves. We've been on this mission for 5 years now, ever since we received the first report of wild boars ravaging crops in this area. Since then, our hunting trips have become more than just a duty, they're a way of life. Each time we set out, it's another test of endurance, skill, and the unpredictable challenges of the deep forest. And today, the journey continues. At a rendezvous point near the forest edge, our team quickly checked all weapons and gear. Everything was prepped and ready for the relentless battle against the invading wild boars. Soon after, we split up, cautiously surveying the terrain step by step. Every tree stump and bush could be hiding danger. 30 minutes passed in absolute silence, yet the tension kept rising. My finger rested on the trigger, ready to react to any threat. Suddenly, a sound came from the bush ahead. It moved incredibly fast, but so did my reflexes. A sharp gunshot rang out. The boar was hit, staggered a few steps, and collapsed to the ground. As we moved forward, we unexpectedly ran into another group of wild boars on the trail. A quick shot was fired, and just like that, we had another trophy in hand. Realizing that the entire forest was becoming increasingly dangerous, more and more boars began to bolt away. I quickly radioed John to warn him about a group of wild boars heading his way. John immediately heightened his alertness, eyes scanning the area. Suddenly, the boars rushed across his path. Without hesitation, he pulled the trigger. One precise shot dropped a boar from the group, while the rest vanished in the depths of the forest. Wild boars are not only aggressive, but also highly cunning, so none of us dared let our guard down, even for a second. The sharp barking of the hunting dogs and the shouting of our teammates added to the tension. Cadale, however, quickly regained composure. The moment his target emerged, he seized the opportunity and fired, another valuable trophy for the team. While the others stayed together, I ventured deeper into the heart of the forest alone. From a distance, I heard a faint sound. It seemed like footsteps, undeniably the distinctive sound of a wild boar. And sure enough, a dark figure burst out. Instinct kicked in, we fired immediately, taking down the target before there was even time to think. After the success of our morning hunt, we headed out again in the afternoon, this time choosing a forest closer to the farm. To our surprise, a whole herd of boars wandered straight into our ambush, an extremely poor decision on their part. A burst of gunfire rang out. One boar was taken down, while the rest fled deep into the woods. At the same time, Cadale remained patiently waiting for the right moment. His eyes darted quickly across every corner of the forest. Wait, something was moving. Cadale instantly recognized the familiar shape, raised his rifle, locked onto the target, and pulled the trigger. Before the boars had a chance to react, the bullet struck its mark, bringing the target down hard. We receive a report that several wild boars were approaching the forest edge. It only took me 2 minutes to reach the ambush site and get into position. The barking of the hounds signaled that the target was getting close. As soon as it appeared, I pulled the trigger without hesitation. One powerful shot dropped the boar instantly. And that wraps up today's video. Did this hunt get your adrenaline pumping? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to catch more thrilling hunts ahead. Wild boars, a familiar name, yet a true nightmare for our community. They don't just invade our fields, they brazenly rummage through residential areas, destroying crops and causing chaos day and night. To root out this cunning beast, our hunting team had no choice but to venture deep into the treacherous swamplands, where they hide, breed, and form their packs. This time, our destination was a swampy area right next to Wayne's home. We chose an airboat for the journey. The roar of the engine thundered through the air as the boat blasted forward at breakneck speed. Seated in the deck, we were all in position, eyes sharply focused. Over there! Without hesitation, I raised my rifle and pulled the trigger with precision. Within just 5 seconds, the animal dropped, unable to fight back. A perfect start to today's hunt. I had spotted another target. The sound of the engine must have triggered its instincts, sending it charging wildly ahead. But no matter how fast it ran, even at 40 kilometers h, it couldn't outrun the cold, powerful muzzle of our rifles. Thanks to the swamp's rich food supply, it has become a paradise for wild boars. Just 10 minutes later, a boar wandered right into Lionel's line of sight. He closed in immediately, gripping his rifle tight despite the engine's jolts, and opened fire in quick succession. Amazing! Despite the difficult terrain, we completed our objective. Now, in the middle of the vast swamp, the wild boar lay motionless, just a dark shadow against the wetland backdrop. After wrapping up yesterday's tense hunt, by the next afternoon, we ventured into an area with taller, denser trees. Using binoculars, our team spotted a large herd of wild boars busily foraging on the ground. We carefully moved in, silently closing the gap and choosing optimal shooting positions. The air felt heavy with anticipation. Bang! Bullseye! A thunderous gunshot echoed across the swamp, instantly dropping one of the boars in its tracks. Deeper inside the quiet marshlands, Wayne was quietly tailing a separate target. He crept forward with measured steps, reducing the distance to increase his shot accuracy. When a moment was right, he didn't hesitate. He fired. Perfect. The bullet streaked forward, hitting the boar square in the body. It let out a single shriek before collapsing on the spot.
Good shot, brother. He's down.
A few hundred meters farther in, I suddenly spotted a familiar dark figure peeking from behind the dense trees. I quickly moved closer, got into position, and waited for the boar to come fully into sight. The shot rang out, startling the boar into a run. But with our seasoned experience, we knew it wouldn't get far. Sure enough, it collapsed just about 10 meters away. Most hunters avoid this swamp due to its harsh and hard-to-reach terrain. Ironically, this has allowed wild boars to thrive even more. In response, we've continued our hunts to control their population and protect the surrounding farmland.